an interesting video today. It's going to be a lot different than what I normally shoot. I'm going to be interviewing an Air Force One pilot, so you want to stick around and check it out. I forgot even how I even phrased the question.
Interesting story.
Okay, so there's an interesting story. I don't know if you want to say it on camera today, but I've got to ask, what was your experience with Lady Bird?
As I said, Lady Bird, interesting story is Lady Bird was extremely demanding. When we got the word that the president was coming in and needed to go to the ranch, we immediately would get up and go down to base operations, check the weather, file a flight plan. And then the steward and myself would go out and the co-pilot would go out and do a very thorough pre-flight of the airplane to make sure that it was ready to go. So they arrived, the cadre arrived from out of Washington in the 707, landed and taxied up to the big hangar where we kept the Convair. And the weather was very, very bad. I mean, Texas thunderstorms were normal, and they're not the nicest thing to fly in, especially in an airplane that doesn't get above 10,000 feet. So I went out and said, Mr. President, we're not going to be able to fly you to the ranch. In fact, with icing, we can't even take the helicopter. You're going to have to take the the limousines. And as I said, he called me Little John. He goes, well, Little John, would you try? Well, you don't tell the president, no, I'm not going to try, just get in the car. But so we boarded up the family and a couple of the people on the airplane. We could hold like 22. And we started out, and in fact, the weather was so bad, I had a radar on the airplane. As I said, it was very well. And it looked like you were being jammed, which means there was just no way through. It just looked like hash on the radar. And we were bumping around. There's an autopilot that we normally flew on to keep it smooth. It wouldn't stay engaged, so we're flying through turbulence, trying to find a hole from Lampasas into the ranch, and there's just none. And in the middle of this hand flying, banging around in the air, I get tapped on the shoulder. I turn around, it's Lady Bird. And she goes, who got the toilet paper? And my original thought is, in my mind, oh my God, they're getting sick back there. And then I thought, wait a minute, there's toilet back there. I said, well, I did, ma'am. She goes, well, it's pink and it should be blue. And my first comment was, it beats using your hands, doesn't it? That was my last 89th flight. And so we took them back to the ranch, and they got on the limos and they went to the ranch. I lived in the bachelor officer quarters because I was single at the time. It's right about when I met your mother. But I get a bang on the door, and it said, this is Sergeant Smith from Base Ops. You have a Twix, which is a teletypewriter, which was the way we communicated back then. From the 89th, they want you to, there'll be a T-39 coming in to pick you up in about an hour. Oh, and it says, wear your blues. So I knew I was in trouble. So the T-39 lands, Bergstrom, opens door, I get on, they close the door. Nobody talks to me other than buckle up. So go to Andrews in about an hour and a half, get out, go in the 89th. I walk in now. The director of operations of the 89th had flown with me, was in the same F-4 squadron. And so he knew me. And I think that's how I got in the 89th anyway. So I walk in, he's got his desk cleared, there's no papers. And he goes, stand at attention. So I stand at attention, salute him. And he gives me the riot act, about the 89th and what they have for, and your mouth gets you in trouble all the time, and goes through the whole malarkey and goes, you're no longer in the 89th. We'll find something for you to do down there. And so I salute him, and I turn around, and as I open the door, he said, which I had enough guts to tell an SOB off. So I knew I was no longer in the 89th, but I really wasn't in trouble. So
I mean, I've got to ask, I'm having a hard time understanding. If the plane is bouncing around, it's dangerous. I mean, what person cares what color the toilet paper is? I mean,
I said Lady Bird was difficult. Yeah. And so she apparently, you know, it didn't go with the motif. I could tell you a funny story too, is all of the Air Force fire engines were painted that day glow green. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but she had all of the fire engines at the ranch required them to be painted very dark green so it wouldn't interfere with the view from the house. That'll give you an idea of Lady Bird.